Alright, everybody, welcome back to part 2 of Anti-Meta. Now, we last left off with Elemental Hero Flame Wingman, so now we're going to move on to the next person on this list, and that is Elemental Hero Mariner. Now, Mariner is fused with Bubbleman and Avion, and as long as you have at least one face-down spell or trap card, this card can attack your opponent directly. Now, Mariner, I don't really use too often, but when I do use him, he does come in handy. Mudball Man, he has very high defense of 3,000, and he's fused with Bubbleman and Clayman. That's really that's all he has. Necroid Shaman is fused with Wildheart and Necroshade, and when he is special summoned, one monster your opponent controls is now destroyed. But he does gain one monster of my choosing to his side of the field. So Phoenix Enforcer is also fused with Persinatrix and Avion, and he cannot be destroyed by battle. Plasma Vice is Sparkman and Blade Edge. He does piercing damage, and I can discard one card from my hand to destroy one attack position monster on my opponent's side of the field. Next up is Rampart Blaster fused with Clayman and Persinatrix. And while in defense mode, as long as my opponent has no monsters, it can attack directly while in defense mode, doing only half of its attack. So next is Shining Flare Wingman, and he's fused with Flame Wingman and Sparkman. And he gains 300 attack for each elemental hero card in my graveyard. And he also does the same effect as regular Flame Wingman, where equal to the attack of the destroyed monster. Next up is Steam Healer, and very similar to Mariner, I don't use him very often at all, but he's fused with Persinatrix and Bubbleman, and gains attack points equal to the attack of the destroyed monster. Now, the most you'll really gain, usually, if the opponent's monster is in attack mode, will be 1,700 points. So it doesn't seem like a lot, and it really isn't. But when you do gain those life points, it does come in handy. So you take the eggs in the basket. So you do gain 1,700 points or so usually. 1,700 minus, maybe a little more if the monster was in defense mode with more attack than that. But most times it will be 1,700. Next up is Tempest fused with Avion, Sparkman, and Bubbleman. And once per turn, and I can send a card I control to the graveyard and target a monster I control, and it can't be destroyed by battle. So say you're in a battle, and say you're in a duel, and you have and you have a Persinatrix on the field. So then your opponent's monster attacks Persinatrix, and you have Fusion Gate face down on the field as well. You can destroy your own Fusion Gate to save Persinatrix, but damage calculation will still apply normally. So next is Thunder Giant with Sparkman and Clayman, and once per turn, I can discard a card and target a monster whose original attack is less than Thunder Giant's. So say your opponent has let me think. Has a Swordsman of Landstar on the field. And through the power of Mage Power, it now has 2,500 attack. Well, you can use Thunder Giant's special ability, and now it's destroyed, and you can still attack, making Thunder Giant one of the most OP ones of them all. Next we have Wild Wingman, fused with Wildheart and Avion. That's right. Now, you can discard a card and destroy a spell and trap card on the field. And finally, we have Wild Edge. Now, he's fused with Wildheart and Blade Edge, and this card can attack every monster on your opponent's side of the field. Only one attack per monster. So say your opponent has a Big Shield Gardna, you can only attack Big Shield Gardna once. Big Shield Gardna is in defense, it gets switched to attack, you can't attack it again with Wild Edge, you have to use someone different. So, that concludes this deck. Now, overall, it's It's a very bad deck to run against most high tier decks. You do not run this against Satellar Knights, Ultimate Athletes, Clefords, unless you're just looking for a good time with some old classic cards from the mid 2000s, like I do. Don't run this deck against Cleforts, Shadalls, um, Ultimate a good Ultimate Athlete deck. You don't want to run this against. You don't want to run this against. What else is there? Satellar Knights is not a good. This is not a good deck to run against Satellar Knights because most Satellar Knight monsters have more attack than the monsters you have. Like honestly, for 4-starred monsters, the highest one you have is Sparkman at 1600. Now most normal cards nowadays can destroy that normally. Then you have Wildheart 1500, and that's really about it. The next highest is Burstentrix with 1200, and 90% of 90% of monsters now, 4-star monsters nowadays, have more than 1200 attack. So this is not a very good deck to run if your opponent is running. Now you can run this against dragon decks. Certain dragon decks, certain bad Blue Eyes decks, you can easily destroy. You can easily tear a Blue Eyes deck to shreds with this. I've won many Blue Eyes duels with this deck. So that is one small thing. Sorry if you heard that, but overall, this is a very fun deck to run if you're just looking for a good time. Now, if you're looking for a good time and don't care if you win or lose, feel free to run the Elemental Hero deck. If you are looking for wins, run something better. Satellar Knights, Ultimate Athletes, Cleforts, Shadalls, if you're in the mood for them. Overall, though, this deck is not a very expensive deck to make. Now, there are some cards that do cost some money in here. Certain cards like Soul Charge can cost up to $9. Raigeki, the lowest pricing of it's is up to $20 now. Raigeki's an expensive card to find. Oh, apparently inactivity. So, did not mean to do that, but we're gonna fix that right now. Going to head back. Also, other cards that can run up some prices. Fusion Gate up to $10. Fusion Gate can be a pretty penny too. Overall Elemental Hero wise, Shadow Mist is very easy to get if you have your local shop, your local store, Walmart, Target, Toys R Us. They all have Hero Strike structure decks now. All Hero Strike structure decks come with an ultra rare Shadow Mist. I bought a 3-pack so I could get the cards I needed. But what else is there that could be some money? The regular Elemental Heroes, Clayman, Burstentrix, and Avion. Bubbleman 2, those are all very cheap cards. Sparkman, cheap as well. Blade Edge, very cheap. Neos, cheap. Necroshade, cheap. All of the regular cards, the monsters are the easy part. Fusion Substitute, you can get that. You can pull that very easily in a new Challengers pack. Fusion Sages are cheap. Most of these cards, it's not a very expensive deck. You get a Parallel World Fusion out of the Hero Strike structure deck. Same with a Polymerization and a Miracle Fusion. Skyscraper, that's fairly cheap as well. Supply Squads are around 545 at the most, but at the same time, if you are willing to do it, you can do. I don't recommend it, but you can do what I did and buy the Super Starter Packs with the Pendulum structure deck that came out recently. You can get one of those. Each one has it comes with one supply squad. You can do that. Plus, you can get some really good pulls. You can get a dart. You can get a very good. I believe it's ultra rare. Let me take a look. I want to say it's either ultra rare or secret rare. You can get because it comes with 2 packs. You can get yourself an ultra rare Odd Eyes Dragon and anything else. Now it is good against certain decks like the dragons, and even then, you don't win every time. It is luck of the draw because there are a lot of times where you can get a bad pull or a bad hand, which is very common with this deck. But overall, it has its ups and it has its downs. And if you're looking for a good old fun time, this is the deck to use. I'll see you guys next time.